Hello, investors and traders, and welcome to the weekly market report with the market guys. I'm AJ Monty. I'm starting off with the Russell 2000 index, ticker symbol RUT. And if you've been following along with us long enough, you'll know I leave my lines on the chart so you can see how the forecast worked out. And last week, right here, I drew this diagonal line straight down to this support level. And I said that this would be a 2-week forecast. And as you can see, it's almost as if the market decided to follow my line. Now, I can't take credit for that, of course, but the pullback is definitely intact. We see the stochastics right here has crossed with a sell signal. When the blue %K crosses the red %D, that's a sell signal. And right here, I'm going to draw a vertical line showing you where the CCI crossed with a sell signal. Both of these oscillating indicators are showing downward momentum. Therefore, I believe that the Russell 2000 will continue lower until it finds a level of support. It might be this role reversal support from back here in August. And then again, it might even be somewhere around the 20-period moving average. So again, it could pull right to the 20-period moving average, which is still being drawn up by the price action. And we'll have to see. This is going to be a critical point in time for us, and we'll have to reevaluate at that point. So that's a Russell 2000. If we look at the SPY, which is the S&P 500, again, I drew a 2-week forecast. You'll see that today's low actually touched that diagonal line that I drew from last week. Same story. Stochastics crossed early on in the week. The CCI crossed, both showing downward momentum. And if you look real closely, you'll see that we still have fairly high volume coming in on the sell side. So this long red candle tells me that the sellers are definitely in force. But if I zoom in just a little bit, you'll notice that today, right here, we have a very small gap that I think ultimately will fill. So we're going to have to look at that to see whether or not that gap acts as a price magnet. So that is something to consider. Once that gap fills, it then turns to resistance. And we'll have to see, because this is already an established resistance point up here. So I'm going to leave this intact as well. Now, looking at the VIX, which is ticker symbol VIX, I drew my lines. Again, 2-week forecast. Today, we have a bullish engulfing pattern on the VIX. Now, if, again, you've been following the VIX, you'll know it's a leading indicator that is inversely related to the S&P. So a bullish VIX is bearish for the S&P, and we already discussed what I thought would happen with the S&P next week. So keep an eye on that VIX, because we had the stochastics cross with a buy signal this week, and earlier in the week the CCI crossed with a buy signal right down here. So there's gaps above the market. I said that the VIX fills those gaps 100% of the time because it's an oscillating indicator. And I'm going to stand by that commitment, staking my reputation on the fact that that gap will one day fill. And again, if the VIX moves up, the S&P will most likely drop. Let's take a look at the Qs. Ticker symbol QQQ. That more or less represents the tech sector. You can see that my line is in place. This was a 1-week forecast right here, and we came very close to my target. What I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this and move it just to the right. I think that next week the Qs are going to drop to test this gap fill support level, and then I think we're going to see a bounce off of that. We're kind of stuck in a trading range right now, with this being the resistance high. So we'll see whether or not we break out over those highs. I'm going to go even further out and forecast that I believe that all of the markets are going to see record new highs towards the end of the year. These pullbacks I'm talking about I think are very temporary, and as I mentioned in a couple of reports ago, that I see no sign of recession represented here in the Dow Jones Industrial Average or the markets. You know, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was created by Charles Dow as an economic leading indicator. He was tracking the 30 most powerful companies that drive the U.S. economy, and when they started to fail, then the U.S. economy would start to pull back. I don't see any sign of that. And even some of the experts are changing their opinion about recession. And I think we really have to pay attention to what's going on with China, because today's news right around 1 o'clock pushed the markets down all of a sudden. And what happens? Generally, the markets go down on the negative news China, and then shortly after that it rallies. There's just all kinds of volatility. I look at that more as market manipulation than anything. But let's face it, eventually the trade war will be settled, and then what's going to happen? Will the Dow rally 1,000 points? Well, again, only time will tell, but I think by the end of this year we're going to see new record highs. So we're going to try to play this market on the pullbacks to get long positions and then protect with stops along the way. So this is my forecast for the Qs. Let's go to the diamonds. Ticker symbol DIA. Again, this was a 2-week forecast. You can see that we're just about halfway through and very close to my forecast line. Again, this diagonal line was what I drew last week. There's a gap below the market. That's why I drew that horizontal line. That would be a gap fill point. I'm not going to change this chart in any way. The stochastics crossed early in the week with a sell signal. The CCI crossed with a sell signal. And notice the volume here. The volume is increasing on the way down. That's telling us that the sellers are becoming more motivated to sell. So be very, very careful next week with any long positions that you may have recently taken. I would protect those with tight stops. Maybe for those who trade options, maybe you could buy some short-term protective puts of some sort. Again, that's to your liking and whether or not you have the experience to do that. But I'm a big option trader and I teach people how to trade options. So again, if you're ever interested in learning about that, just look me up and we'll put you on the waiting list to learn how to trade options. So that's our forecast. Remember, next week we're having our open house Q&A session. That's going to be Monday the 23rd. Just go to the Market Guys website, scroll down a little bit, click on the Register Now button, and that will save your seat. And you will have a 1-hour action-packed session with me where you could submit questions and stock symbols, and I'll analyze your stocks. We have a lot of fun each and every month on that open house call, so hopefully you could join us for that. Until then, you have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. So long.
This video segment is a small part of what the Market Guys offer through their educational products and services. If you are interested in any of our Trade Alert services, or you would like more information about our one-on-one mentoring program, simply contact us at info@themarketguys.com.